Oh, I was just thinking about this man who walked around on this planet once, just like this. He lived during certain actual years in history. A while back, he started out as a baby and grew up into a man, just like any boy does. He had legs and feet. It was a good thing. He did a lot of walking. He was born before bicycles and cars and buses and trains were invented. He had 2 hands, 10 fingers. But his had amazing power in them. Well, not like a muscle man. More like a cross between a doctor and a magician. He put his hands on people and healed their bodies, changed their minds, gave them a whole new set of things to care about. He said he could do this because he had come from God. He must have looked like any other man. He had 2 eyes, but his could see right to the core of what people were thinking and why they did things. He had a nose, but his could sniff out anything false a mile away. He had a mouth that spoke words like this, but his words, they had a life all their own. Crowds followed him around. Poor guy, couldn't get a moment's peace. But he didn't seem to mind. He just kept telling them stories. His stories used images that the crowd could grasp easily. Well, like if he were telling stories today, he'd talk about things like television, credit cards, the IRS, AIDS, things that are familiar to us. They were simple stories, on the surface. Too simple, some people thought. They were sort of like spoken picture books. He wanted to communicate with as many people as possible. Well-educated, sophisticated people resented being spoken to as if they were children, but that's how he did it. What they didn't realize was that there were profound truths woven into each story, truths that have been true and will be true forever. And that's not a bad thing to know something about, wouldn't you say, no matter how intellectual you are? Well, they were sort of like riddles. Why'd the chicken cross the road? Not everyone got the point. Or puzzles, but you didn't need to be crafty to figure them out. You just had to listen. Well, like a little kid does. You know, all ears. Listen, Jesus said, if a man has ears, he should use them. Just having ears on the sides of your head is not enough. Mannequins in store windows have ears on the sides of their heads, but try asking one for directions. You ever wonder where the expression blockhead came from? Remember when your mom used to complain to your dad? Everything I tell him goes in one ear and out the other. Nothing sinks in. It's possible to have ears that are just for show. Fortunately, people who were alive at the same time as Jesus took the trouble to remember some of the stories he told and wrote them down so that we can listen to them again today. A lot of his stories were farm stories. That's what most people did when Jesus walked the planet. They grew things. They had to. Supermarkets weren't invented yet. You couldn't just hop in your car and zip down to the store to pick something up. Chances were that if you wanted to eat it, you'd have to find a way to grow it. You had to find a piece of land, till up the soil, fertilize it, buy some seed, plant it, and keep a close watch on the whole thing. Farming was something that the crowds Jesus spoke to knew about, so it makes sense that a lot of his stories were farm stories. He told stories about seeds, for example. Whatever it is about seeds, they helped him to get his point across. A sower went out to sow some seed, Jesus began one story. A sower is a farmer, and to sow something means to plant it. The story goes on about how seed falls all over the place. Some of it sprouts, some of it doesn't, depending on where it lands, and the story ends. Like I said, a pretty simple story, right? Well, Jesus had this close circle of friends, and after the crowds went home, they asked him, "Why do you keep telling stories all the time?" He replied in a strange way. "The secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to those who do not know the secret, everything remains in stories." He goes on, "The others are given these stories so that they may go through life with their eyes open and see nothing, and with their ears open and understand nothing of what they hear." So they're not just simple stories. They've got secrets in them. They're like little mysteries. Well, how do these guys rate? They get told secrets? What about me? What about you? What if we want to know the secrets too? Well, Jesus' friends must have still looked pretty confused. He said, "Do you really not understand this story? Then how are you going to understand all the other stories?" Well, I don't know. Maybe they just needed more clues. Fortunately, in the case of this story, Jesus outright explained it to them. He said, "This is what the story means. The seed is the message of God." Well, now wait a minute. The message of God? Wasn't that what was coming out of Jesus' mouth? I wonder if he means that his words are somehow like seeds. What is a seed? Why don't we ask a scientist? I wanted to ask you a few questions about seeds. First of all, what is a seed?
A seed is an embryo for a future plant. It has all of the characteristics or attributes that will produce a new generation of plants.
Why don't we take a look at some seeds? They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. These are soybeans. They're kind of yellowish, brownish. Not much to look at. They're not exactly eye-catching. These pink ones are corn. They're a little more attractive, but that's only because they've been dusted with insect repellent to keep the grubs from eating them up once they're in the ground. These are beet seeds. Boy, if I hadn't read the package, I would have thought they were just some kind of dirt or something. One thing you notice about seeds right away is they aren't very flashy. They don't seem to be saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm a seed." It's almost like they're disguised. I mean, when they're down here on the ground, they're pretty hard to pick out. You're not even sure they're here. It's almost like they're designed to go about their business unnoticed, almost in secret. Just like the words coming out of Jesus' mouth. Remember he said that they were disguised on purpose so they could accomplish what they were sent to do, almost in secret, deep down inside of people's minds and hearts. Some people saw the truth, the rest didn't. But no matter what they look like, the most important thing about seeds is not what's on the outside, but what's on the inside. Each one is packed with the most incredible, mysterious force on the planet in them. Life. It's amazing. No one knows where it came from, what causes it. Scientists have been trying to figure that one out for a long time. But there it is in every little seed. They're like little life capsules. The same is true of Jesus' words. His words are plain and simple, easy enough for a child to grasp, and yet packed within each one is something that's alive. If you cut a seed open, it's very hard to spot the life. You won't see anything wiggling around, not even under a microscope. But wrap some up in some damp paper towels for a few days and watch what happens. There have been people who have tried to cut open Jesus' words, slice them, dissect them, take them apart, only to conclude that they couldn't see anything wiggling around. But then, in someone who's really listening, they spring to life, making incredible sense. Seeds are amazing. They can grow from something very small into something very big. The same is true of Jesus' words. What shall we say the kingdom of God is like, Jesus said. How shall we put it in a story? Here he goes again. It's like a tiny grain of mustard seed, which when it is planted is very small, smaller than lots of other seeds. But after it's planted, it grows up and becomes bigger than many other plants. It shoots out great branches so that birds can come and nest in its shelter. Now, we don't have any real live mustard trees around here, but we do have acorns and oak trees. From a tiny little acorn like this came this huge oak tree. How could it have? How could all of this trunk and all of these branches come out of this tiny little compartment? The same thing is true of Jesus' words. Something as tiny as a single idea or a sentence or two takes root in you, like these. For God loved the world so much that he gave his only Son, so that anyone who believes in him should not be lost, but have eternal life. Wow, once a thought like that takes root in you, it grows and grows until your whole life gets affected, changed, healed, built up into something that you never thought possible in a million years. And all from something as tiny as a little seed. Another important seed characteristic is that they always hatch the next generation of whatever plant they came from. In the book of Genesis, Moses said that God said, "Let the earth burst forth with every sort of grass and seed-bearing plant, and fruit trees with seeds inside the fruit, so that these seeds will produce the kinds of plants and fruits that they came from." And that's how it's worked ever since. From a corn kernel, you get a corn stalk. From an apple seed, an apple tree. No matter how hard you try, you can't get a banana seed to sprout a strawberry patch. Or a seed from a pine cone to grow into a birch tree. Seeds have the next generation of whatever they came from inside of them. So, if Jesus' words are like seeds, then they must have the next generation of wherever he came from inside of them. Jesus said he came from God. So the words coming out of his mouth must have God's life in them. No, really, that's what sprouts in people who actually hear them, God life. Well, now I know it might be hard to tell at first, but people who get these words into them get completely turned around. They start looking at life with a whole new perspective without even changing their eyeglass prescription. Things they used to be crazy about start slipping their mind. Their voice might have a whole new ring to it. Their attitudes make wild shifts. Things they used to dream about are completely forgotten. There are times where you may catch them being more joyful than you've ever seen them. Maybe a little more peaceful, too. Why do seeds grow in the dirt and not in the package?
Seeds, when they reach physiological maturity or they could reproduce themselves, they will go into a state called dormancy. A seed may lie dormant for many years, from several years to hundreds of years.
Another thing to notice about seeds is that they can lie there dormant for weeks and months, years, without doing a thing. You don't think they're anything but a dried up old speck of something, or a pebble or some gravel. But then one day, when the conditions are just right, they spring to life. The same is true with Jesus' words. The first time you hear them, you might not understand them. Or maybe you're distracted by something. Or maybe you're just not listening. Or maybe you plain old don't believe. But there they sit, tucked in the folds of your memory until the conditions are just right and they spring to life. Now, I know that lots of Jesus' words sound strange to us. Well, that's a fact. They're from out of this world, so what do you expect? You know, it's written somewhere else that God's thoughts are not our thoughts and God's ways are not our ways. So it shouldn't be surprising if Jesus' words strike us as a little strange, especially because he talks about so many invisible things, things we can't see, like his Father's kingdom.
From the time that they are planted, a combination of 4 elements are important. There has to be moisture, temperature, gases, which we get from the air, and light. When the proper environment is reached, then they will break forth from that dormancy, break through their seed coat, and begin the germination process.
Jesus' words need something to happen to them so they don't stay dormant, just like seeds. Seeds need water, dirt, and light. Jesus' words need faith. Faith is the act of believing in something you can't see. We all use lots of faith every day. I mean, look at me right now. I'm giving this rocking chair my full weight. I have faith in this rocking chair. I don't know the name of the man who built it. I don't even know if he has any credentials for building rocking chairs. But I have faith. If I didn't, I might sit on the edge like this, just in case something started creaking or giving way. Or if I had no faith at all, I'd stand up. I wouldn't have sat down. Same with this house. Do you see how confidently I stand in this doorway? I automatically have faith in the builder and the architect. I didn't have their methods checked. I don't know if the materials they used are any good. I don't even know if this house has been properly engineered. How can I have such confidence? It's simple. Faith. Faith is common. Think of all the people driving every day who have some amount of faith in the drivers all around them. Or all the people who get on jet planes every day with complete faith that the pilot knows how to get the plane up in the air and down again safely. Now, one day, Jesus' temper flared up at his friends. They couldn't accomplish a certain task. So they asked him, "Why weren't we able to do that?" Jesus replied, "Because your faith is too small. I assure you that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you'll be able to say to this hill, 'Get you up and move over there.' You'll find nothing impossible." All right, let's give it a try. Get you up and move over there. Up you get and move over there. Up you get and move over there. What's wrong? It's not budging. Well, sure, I might have faith, but faith in what? Faith in my own good ideas? In my own muscle? It says that faith in God, even if it's as teensy as a little mustard seed, can move what everyone else said could never be moved. Get you up and move over there. One more thing to notice about seeds is that they have ways of getting around, almost as if they're trying to spread out as far as possible. A coconut can float across the ocean because its shell is as tough as the hull of a boat. Burrs are seeds with tiny hooks on them that catch onto people's clothes and animals' fur for a free ride. Some tiny seeds are tucked into juicy fruit so that they're eaten up and get a free ride in an animal's stomach. Some seeds are so light they can ride the wind. Others are gathered by animals for winter food and forgotten about. People have carried seeds all over the world. We believe that peanuts originally came from Africa. Jesus' words have been spreading far and wide like seeds ever since he said them. Well, sure, he was secretive at first, but after a while he told his friends to go out all over the place and talk it up. And that's how it's been ever since, people talking it up. My dad told me, I told you, And maybe someday you'll tell someone, until everyone on the planet has heard the words at least once in their life. By now you've seen lots of different seed characteristics, but it's important to realize that there are lots of different kinds of seeds, and they're not all used for planting. Seeds have lots of important functions. Some seeds grow lawns. Others feed animals. Some make coffee. The padding around a cotton seed is used to make a bath towel. Some seeds make soaps. Others make fuel for cars. The same thing is true with Jesus' words. They didn't function the same way in everybody who heard them. In fact, once they got into people, they touched them in very specific ways. Jesus knew how to talk to divorcees, holy men, crazy men, prostitutes, children, his close friends, and each time he met that person's specific need. Seeds feed people too. They're nutritious. We eat them all the time. How many seeds do you think you've eaten already today? What about your Cheerios this morning? Or did you have cornflakes? Both are made from seeds. The pea soup you had at lunch and the bread your sandwich was made out of are both made of seeds. What about peanut butter? What about popcorn? It's made from seeds too. Did you know that just 20 different seeds provide 80% of the calories that the population of the world consumes? Jesus' words, like seeds, are very nutritious too. It's good to feed on them every day. They really satisfy you. They hit the spot. Someone wrote in the Bible, "Your words were found, and I ate them, and they became a joy and a delight to my heart." So, seeds are used for lots of different purposes, but many of them are planted. And any farmer will tell you that there are good seeds and there are worthless seeds. There are seeds that are worth the time, money, and sweat, and there are seeds that aren't. Farmers do a lot of thinking and reading and asking questions at the seed store. They don't want to plant just anything. They want good seeds, seeds that will produce something worthwhile. If they're going to take the trouble to plant acres and acres of onions, or lettuce, or broccoli, for example, they want to be sure that the seeds will produce the best onions, lettuce, and broccoli possible. Good seeds produce. Jesus' words are like very, very good seeds. They produce a fantastic crop. Listen to what it says in a chapter in Isaiah. "As the rain and the snow come down from heaven and stay on the ground to water the earth, causing the grain to grow, to give seed to the farmer, and bread to the hungry, so also is my word. I send it out, and it always produces fruit. It accomplishes all I want it to, and prospers everywhere I send it." Worthless seeds won't do that. They can't. These seeds can't produce anything worthwhile. A vacant lot is a good example. Just a bunch of plants that have been thrown here, blown here, growing all over the place. Thorns, nettles, wild grape, poison ivy, a corn stalk or two. A real mess. There's no chance of a harvest here. The plants from worthless seeds are good for nothing but a big bonfire. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the good seeds and went away. When the crop came up and began to ripen, the weeds appeared as well. Then the owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where did all these weeds come from?" "Some enemy of mine has done this," he replied. Do you want us to go out and pull up all the weeds? No, because then you would pull up the tiny shoots of good plants with them. Instead, let them both grow together until harvest. Then collect all the weeds first and tie them into bundles ready to burn, and then collect my harvest and store it in my barn. As long as we're alive on this planet, words like seeds of all kinds are going to come at us. Magazines, TV shows, friends, the government, newspapers, churches, your family, books, movies are all scattering their words like seeds every day, some of them more fruitful than others. But then there are the words of Jesus in this book. What kind of seeds get planted in your life? What about mine? Good seeds or worthless seeds? If a farmer could look at each of our lives as if they were fields, what would he see? Well-tended acres producing a nourishing crop? Or just a vacant lot? Seeds are important, aren't they? You could say, I suppose, that seeds are what keep life going on the planet. Without them, all life would end. Nothing would hatch, sprout, or be born. The same thing is true with Jesus' words. Without them, all life on the planet would have ended a long time ago. In fact, life would never have gotten started to begin with. Listen to this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. The hymn it's talking about is Jesus. His words got everything going in the beginning and will keep everything going right to the end, just like seeds. Seeds and His words have a lot in common, don't they?